Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Welcome everyone to another episode of All Things Policy. I am Astha Rastogi, Program Manager for Defense and Foreign Affairs, and I am joined by Dr. Y. Nithyanandam, Professor and Head of the Geospatial Research Program at Takshashila Institution. Welcome, Nithya.
Thank you, Astha, for having me today.
Thank you, Nithya. So we will be talking about how we often think of census as a simple counting exercise, but India's Census 2027 may involve far more than just counting people. With digital tools, spatial mapping, and systems like DigiPin, it could mark another major shift in how population data is collected and understood. So let me start with the basic misconception most people have. So, Nitya, why is census not just a population count? Because reading your article, what stood out to me was that you seem to be saying the real story here is not just counting people, but improving where and how precisely we count them, and how important is the location accuracy in modern censuses.
Right. So, interesting question to begin with. So, this census has additional layer.
Mhm.
You can say the geospatial tools are quite actively embedded in it.
Mhm.
So, that enables the enumerator at the final result to have something called a spatial tag.
Right.
So, which give more awareness of not just where it is, and it is also gives an additional information like what are the things around it.
Mhm.
Right. Having said this, the previous census were not actually spatially blind.
Right.
Right. They used something like location codes and published information at village and ward levels.
Right.
The entire statistics is based on those precision level. So, which even enabled people working in the field to transfer their information into a village level administrative boundary.
Okay.
So the decisions on population spread and multiple connected things can be done only at the level of village boundary,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And even we don't know where in that village this particular set of people or population lives, because it's all aggregated and clubbed and dumped into the village level boundary.
Got it.
Whereas right now what we are getting is, with the help of geospatial tools, we know what exists, but not just where it is, and with the precision that modern delivery increasingly demands.
Mhm.
So, what I mean is the welfare scheme, infrastructure plan, and health and outreach from government agencies all requires a precise location of the end user, right?
Absolutely.
That can be provided with the help of the sensor.
Okay.
So each location, each building, when they collect it, the locations are verified.
Hmm.
The building information is decoded and geotagged,
Right.
and thereafter the enumeration also happens
Mhm.
subsequently.
Okay.
Now, but then the information will be, again, what you can say, diluted to a block level,
Mhm.
building blocks level, probably to a street level, depending on the density of population, and then it is put out for dissemination.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nitya, for helping us understand in a simple way. So the other thing is that I found fascinating in your emphasis on spatial intelligence. Can you help us understand for our listeners who are unfamiliar with the term, and what does it mean to think spatially about population data? And historically, what limitations have existed in India because of the weaker geospatial mapping?
So before I move on to the spatial thing, maybe I would like to address, the importance of the census. Right, we are
Yes.
doing it with a delay of almost close to a decade. The last census, which was pushed out, was in 2011, right?
I think it was 2020. So because of COVID, it got pushed.
No, the last
Yeah, it
census
happened
which
in
was
2011.
published
Yeah.
was 2011.
Yes.
And that again had 29 questions.
Yes.
And
You're
this time
right.
also we are having similar to that, and it is very important to have such.
Hmm.
The importance of spatial component that you have asked
Yeah.
is very much a talkative point,
Hmm.
just because you are collecting 29 parameters of various things that includes demography, economic, literacy, amenities, housing conditions, migration, facilities, and also you're collecting information like caste and many other things.
Nutrition, I think, also.
Yes. So when all these things comes in, right, it is not just a database for government.
Yes.
Right. So otherwise, census data sets, government use it for multiple planning. Researchers go and access it. Like I do remember when we are studying masters, we used to go to the local office, regional office, and then collects data from them in earlier days in printed format. We used to take photocopy of it. But then later on, those are available in CDs. We collect that, we buy that from government, in fact. But this census will create an opportunity for people to collect it as a geospatial layer, as a database. So each of the parameter that we are collecting will leads to a specific layer, right? So what we call in geospatial terms, each of this information, let's say demography became one layer, school location of schools became another layer, location of hospital becomes another layer. So it is having a spatial connect, and you can overlay on top of each other to take your decision. So this was missing in previous cases, and this is a very rich database, especially when we are moving towards 2035. India wish to have a 3D digital twin,
Right.
for which this massive exercise will also be supportive. Because 3D digital twin, not just like having information above the ground, below the ground, you'll be correcting various information like topography, mapping water bodies, mapping forests. But how about population distribution? That is a very crucial layer to take any decision, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You'll map surface topography, you'll map resources, you'll map transportation network. But the population is the driving factor, the distribution of it, which actually tells us where we need to have facility, where we need to address it. In terms of disaster, when it happens, what is the first thing that we need to address? Because this gives an opportunity to tell how different a village which is located right close to a landslide area versus a village which is located in a open plain area where there is no let's say there is no disaster aspect associated to it.
So this can actually help mitigate disaster management as well.
Yes, it helps us to understand the challenges arises or challenges exist close to a pocket of people who are living there.
Understood.
So that was not possible in earlier cases, right? We know where it exists, but then in real time, it's quite hard to make a decision. For say tomorrow, when a disaster happens, right? You have a discrete database where you need to go and find out how many people lives in that area. But then if we can predict like the possibility of landslide or flood in a particular area, by overlaying it with the population distribution that we have, we could able to say these are the number of people potentially need to be evacuated before the disaster. From this location, right? That is an fine grain of information that we can get it, which was not available in the previous census. This is not going to stop there. Indeed, this would be very useful for different government projects. Let's say whether it is a government health scheme or the housing scheme, where are your beneficiaries located and how dense they are and what are the other aspects associated with them. To identify true beneficiaries, this would be really helpful.
Okay, understood. So what I understand is that in a sense that older census told us that people existed, but it was not able to tell us how they were distributed in a certain place that or a city or a demography that we are capturing, right?
Right. So it gives you information up to a village level. The best you can do is you can dump it to a village boundary. In a particular X village, you can put out all the 29 variables and say 29 different thematic maps can be created.
Right.
But then comparing it with other spatial layers, I think the years to come will actually help us to do all this overlaying and analysis, not just beneficial for government, but creates an opportunity for entrepreneurs and any individuals who wanted to play with the data sets.
Right.
But how much of this would be available is a question. But
that's true.
Let's hope that some at least some extent is available by masking the individual's information so that multiple developments can be built on it.
At least
development related applications can be built on it.
So at least indicators that are important for say public health,
right,
for education,
Right.
or for access of any services,
Right.
like you said, can be an opportunity for entrepreneurs to go
Right.
and look at this data and
Exactly.
think of what kind of startups or interventions can
Yeah.
be done here. Okay, that's very interesting, because I don't think so census was thought or even imagined in this way. So
Right, but then this is the power of having a spatial tag attached to it. The moment you have a spatial tag, the data becomes very sensitive on the other hand, but it can open gates for multiple applications.
Yeah, I think there is always a good and a bad side of everything.
Yep.
So privacy versus, if you, like you said, if you can mask the personal identifiers,
Right.
then you can actually have that data, which will give you like a overarching idea of one place that we are talking about.
Right.
So moving on to so let's come to DigiPin. Because I think that's one of the most interesting ideas in your piece. So can you explain what problem DigiPin is trying to solve?
Right. So I've incorporated DigiPin because this piece I was, when I was writing my first draft, it was much, much before it got published. So what I'm seeing here as an opportunity to use DigiPin to create an exceptional database, which can also solve some of the challenges arises naturally while collecting geospatial data sets. What I mean, I'll go through it.
Yeah.
So DigiPin, for say, it is a replacement for India's postal address.
Yeah,
right?
but one thing, Nitya, so we already have addresses. Then why do we need?
Right.
Yeah.
So we already have addresses, but still many of our address requires a landmark, right? We always say, oh, close to that particular mall. In villages, we say close to that banyan tree, or
The
we'll say
landmarks.
close to that temple, and so on. But why that is required? Because that requires the the knowledge of the service provider at the end. Right, the last mile connectivity is literally depend on how good the postman is. That is why the postmans are like somebody who works in the day till the retirement.
Like back in
right?
the day, yeah.
Right. So he knows everything and every location. But then here you don't need a complex address, because at times the delivery gets trouble because they don't write their addresses in full form, and spellings are inaccurate.
Right.
It is human readable but not machine readable.
Like a barcode.
Right. It's not machine readable. So here we are not putting out barcode. Here we are leaving out with a 10-digit or 10-character alphanumeric, code derived ideally from latitude and longitude. That's a gift from the geospatial tool. This works even when there is no street name or postal address exists. So everybody who can able to get 4x4 meters area of their place with geocoded to it, which means you can get a specific digipin for your hall, and you can get specific digipin for your kitchen, and you can get specific digipin.
I was only thinking in terms of what
if your house is 4x4 meters, wide and length.
No, so what happens if a building like we have apartments, right? So in case of apartment, how would DigiPin work?
So that's another complexity attached to it. So DigiPin probably takes you to the 2-dimensional level, not the 3-dimensional level. It can, it can take you through a location where you can count all the people living in this 4x4. Let's say if it's a 10-story high-rise apartment, you will get this references same for all those houses. So those are challenges. But then this creates an opportunity, since the enumerators are going to each of their house. Rather collecting data in just latitude and longitude, putting it in DigiPin and then corroborating it with multiple other databases, which are these days requiring DigiPin, right? Many of them started using it for KYC, and many agri stacks and so many other databases are incorporating DigiPin. So this would be helpful in order to fine tune the data. So one is, yes, you can dilute it to the road level or whatever, but then this layer can be kept and used if and required at a very precise level. This application would be very useful. So that is something I suggested as a utilization of DigiPin.
Okay, thanks. So this sounds like an extremely promising concept, because I never thought that this could be so accurate, and then we can have other layers on it. So, but I imagine the scale of implementation is enormous. From a scientific and an operational standpoint, what are the hardest parts of executing this accurately at India's scale? geospatial because geospatial system are only as good as the data entered into them. Like any, for that matter, any data is as good as what you enter in them because it's a machine, it's a system that understands those data and hence give you the accurate or an inaccurate
Right.
response. So how do you ensure consistency across lakhs of enumerators? Yeah.
So here is an interesting thing. Indeed, it requires a specific session to discuss on how this self enumeration and other things are happening. But let me touch upon this topic broadly.
Yeah.
The operational complexity here is 30 lakh enumerators will use mobile apps. So here, as you said, the complexity depends on how good the data is being entered, right?
Yeah.
But then there's another complexity in geospatial data collection. Here, the location system is being used, and the accuracy of the system that provides that location information is again a complexity. Not everybody use similar set of GNSS systems, right? Because GNSS location is provided based on the either utilizing single GNSS system, or let's say GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, or in combination to this, because most of the smartphones use or carry more than one GNSS receiver. So in that case, the location became more precise, but it is not uniform across the devices. Since it is an app that takes the information from it, that is something which is fixed to an extent through a technique called geofencing. Each enumerator will be going to a particular geofenced area. To explain what is geofencing in simple terms, you would have noticed when you use Google Maps, right?
Yes.
When you're traveling on road, you always find yourself in the middle of a road, or in the right in the middle of a road. But then the device that you're using has an accuracy of plus or minus 10 meters. These days it is less than 4 meters, and even better. But why you're not moved on the other side of a road?
Yeah.
Right? Why you're not? Why the map is not showing you on the other side of the road? It's just because the roads are geofenced. Even your location is showing such. You're pushed to the middle of a road because it is very clear that one can travel at a speed of 60 kilometers or 100 kilometers on the road, not over the building. Right? So the location is slightly dragged and pushed. That's why you can always see even the cars, the icons that you use for navigation are always big.
Yes.
They are not small.
Yeah.
So at the scale that you're looking, it helps you to, keep you on road. So geofencing is something where the enumerators again here would be asked to look at one particular area where there are geofence that must be having specific IDs and so on. But the question is about collecting the house level information, identifying houses, how precisely it fall and which.
Yeah. So how accurate can data be? But what I understood from what you just spoke is that we have already accounted for certain amount of error. So
yeah, that is taken care. But the question is house listing block creators using satellite imagery as a base. That works really well with the rural areas. Like you can have a latest updated satellite imagery, and you can, even you are slightly away from that place on the base map. Base map is a reference map. It indicates your location. You can drag and say, okay, this is the location of this house, because some enumerator can actually corroborate, because none of us has actually seen the system, right? There's a limitation in commenting about it, but the opportunity exists for them to correct. That is why a high resolution satellite data set exists. But what about dense environment?
Like
it's a challenging task.
Big cities,
right? And you have, I don't even have considering this as a problem in high rises, but I consider this as a problem in complex, old, dense urban environment.
Yes.
Where we have seen, whether it is heat or whether it is this, the problem is more with a old, closely packed, it's not regulated, it is uneven, and it is densely packed. Everybody has joint walls and things like that. It's very difficult to enumerate it. That is a problem I see here as well. But then in those cases, the information is again clubbed and put on. Then on the other hand, I'm arguing for building level information, but the accuracy may not exist at the end at building level, because that requires a lot of training and capacity building to the enumerators also.
Okay, understood. So if Census 2027 succeeds technically, what new capabilities does it unlock from a geospatial perspective? So does this create possibilities beyond census for urban planning? And also you mentioned disaster response and also like infrastructure mapping.
If DigiPin and all this used effectively, right? Let's presume this huge exercise comes with a very good success rate and also with precision on data collection. Then it can actually helps to even map with Aadhaar and other government schemes, right? And which can eventually, eliminate duplicate information or unmatching records because you have location tag. This is kind of location to the Aadhaar, the DigiPin. But then on top of it, you're dumping a huge data about that location, the number of people who are living there, and in self-enumeration, interestingly, the head of a family is going to record. So a lot of information can be collected and it can be used for multiple verifications also, right? But then beyond the typical applications, it can be utilized by urban planners or anybody who wanted to study the density of population or the spatial spread of population and so on. As I said already about the disaster management applications.
Yes.
And more importantly, I wish to see this for the allocation of government services, right? Because identifying requirement for a new hospital or a clinic in a particular village is quite different. Because I tell you how it is important to look at spatially. Let's say much longer, several years ago, when I was doing my masters, I was trying to understand the spatial requirements of public health infrastructure on ground. But what I realized is, when this allocation of primary health centers are designed, it is based on, let's say, radial distances.
Okay.
By drawing a radial distance from a particular primary health center, you know what are the areas that it covers. And village boundary is not going to fall on this radial distance, right? You may have particular hospital or primary health center next to you as your designated hospital that you need to go. But then in reality, the accessibility to that place may not exist. You may have a water body in between. You may have a mountain in between.
Yeah.
So you need to go 25 kilometers around to reach there, right? These are the challenges. So how do you allocate it when you have right spatial distribution information? It helps you to precisely put out the requirements. So we do GIS analysis, let's say 15 years ago, but then that will get much precise and accurate when you have this kind of information. And not just that, you can also regulate many things, illegal migrations, and you can more utilize it more for the benefit of people and welfare of the people. That is the main advantage I see it from this.
So what I understand is that if we do this correctly, we will have better governance, better delivery of services, because now we are able to identify people who would need the services.
Right.
So it may have its cons, but it has more pros to look forward to.
Right. Let's look at the pros only at this moment.
Yes. Yeah. So if everything works as intended, what excites you most personally as a geospatial scientist about Census 2027 could actually achieve with it?
It's quite interesting to see, the living spatial record, right? Which is going to have millions of people's information collected and aggregated and cleaned and reproduced for multiple applications and decision making. As I said, this opens a door for various applications. It depends on how are we going to leverage this spatial layers.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a record, just a spatial information exists, and then if it sits like a previous census record, it's of no use, right? It may be used for certain decisions. But then if the real test is how downstream, utilization, reuse of this data exists.
Yes.
So you can actually screen some layers which may be open for people to use, some fundamental foundational layers, but some layers that we feel like it is more need to be masked and it should not be shared, then government can take a call on it. But the ideal thing is it's going to be a great national digital infrastructure that India has not seen. It will set up a stage. It in fact takes some part of mission objectives of 3D digital twin, so that we are getting information about people and building, and the rest is about features, right? That is something where we see it as a positive change, and that's a huge task, and let's hope for a good outcome for the benefit of the country.
Interesting, because now when I'm thinking with you, I am also thinking not just in terms of governance, but I'm also thinking in terms of increased accountability.
Right.
Because if certain data is available in public domain, so Like as researchers, we know that we use this census data to base our research, that
Right.
the nutrition levels or health levels, all these indicators are in the census. So if it's mapped accurately, yeah.
This actually, it reminds me something, right?
Mhm.
Maybe we'll end with this.
Yes.
Interestingly, someone commented that the census in the past, right, we have been doing it for years, right?
Yeah.
So most of the time at a village level, right, a person who goes out for enumeration, not these days, in earlier days,
Yes. Yes.
so it's just in a particular area and calls the local representative and the government official at the grassroots level, who can help him to say, this is so and so person who lives there. And most of the time, when enumerators in the past goes also, at times not all those questions were asked. They fill because
Yeah.
one is the local knowledge that exists. The second is like there's no way to verify whether a person is actually there right in front of the door and asked all these questions. And it is also sometimes it's unclear whether it is vetted by those people. Now this one brings transparency in that part.
Right.
When the enumerator goes there, it can show in real time that where the enumeration works really well, where it is lagging, and what kind of data sets are coming in a particular dashboard. Not just that, you can also verify whether my informations are
Is accurate or not.
So all
Makes
this
sense.
are good. So that makes us very interesting, and we look forward to the
Yes.
data sets.
Thank you, Dr. Nithyanandam, for joining us for this interesting All Things Policy episode. We'll close with that. See you in another episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.